Coming up, we're going to talk about the latest speculation for Halloween Horror Nights on this week's episode of the DIS Unplugged Universal Edition. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the DIS Unplugged Universal Edition. I'm your host, Craig Williams, and I'm joined alongside by my co-host, Ryno.
I don't have a catchphrase.
That's okay. You don't have to. It's not very important, but I just appreciate that you are here with us so we can talk about Halloween Horror Nights. It's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, we took a couple weeks off from talking about it, and Ryno, quite frankly, I thought we would have already had, at least one house announcement at this point.
Yeah, I think they were saying like normally there's one around March-ish or whatever. Usually there's at least the flagship announcement to be like, okay, this is where we pull people in. Beetlejuice, start planning your vacations. Yep. Stranger Things, plan your vacation. Whatever the thing is to get people to be like, yes, we are having the event. So it is kind of crazy that we're sitting here and this is the tail end of April and we don't have it yet.
Yeah. And we maybe will be able to wish it into existence today. And of course, we'll be just a day late for this announcement. It'll probably be hours. Hours from now is when that first announcement comes. And you know what? Even if that happens, I don't care. Good. I'm glad something came out of there. Maybe we would re-record everything to include it in there. I don't quite know, but we'll get to that later when we have to worry about that. But right now, we need to talk about our sponsor, Dreams Unlimited Travel. If you like our content and you want to support us, please book your vacation through Dreams Unlimited Travel. Remember, it costs you no extra money, and you get the support of an amazing Dreams Unlimited Travel agent. So head over to dreamsunlimitedtravel.com today for a free, no obligation quote. Okay, Ryno, with the speculation about Halloween Horror Nights, once again, we are going to turn to the fine folks who run Horror Night Nightmares, HN Nightmares on social media, specifically Twitter, where they put out these awesome speculation maps, the ones that, most of the Universal Orlando and Halloween Horror Nights community actually trusts these ones to at least steer us on the right path because, they put it out there. It's going to change. Things are always going to change with it until they get to the one that's like right before the end where it's not like random names for original houses. It's like set in stone. Like this is what it's going to kind of be with it. But yeah, it's just their track record is great. And it's never like wild ones that seem like completely out of nowhere. At least it feels like that. Like sometimes you see the handmade ones by some people and it's like just bonkers choices. Like,
I just imagine you were talking about Handmaid's Tale being one. And I was like, actually, that might be a pretty good one, but it's fine.
Yeah. It could be a good one, but they're already on to the second version of their speculation map, which they released last week. We could have technically done an episode about it last week, but we obviously didn't. So that's all I have to say about that. But we still wanted to take a moment to talk about it. And by moment, I mean probably like 30 minutes. But yeah, it's still important. It's fun to talk about, and it's something that we obviously love. So why not do it? But we did our breakdown of the first version of the speculation map weeks and weeks ago. And just to go over what was originally included on that map, and I'm going to go into the locations too, because I do consider that to be pretty important with this. But in terms of what the first version of the map said, it had the Universal Monsters Mummy versus Wolfman is the first house when you enter in the park, the one that you would queue up in front of the Universal Studios Music Plaza stage. And then right beside that was going to be Seaside Village, an original. And right beside that, in one of the corner houses, would have been Fear Street. And the one right beside that would have been The Last of Us. And looping around, the one that would be located inside Fast and Furious Supercharged would be not the Curse of Pandora's Box. That one was supposed to be The Weekend. And the one beside Fear Factor Live was supposed to be The Curse of Pandora's Box. And then the two back by Men in Black in the pop-up tents would have been Underground Creatures as well as El Chupacabra. And then the two in Kid Zone that go inside the two buildings would have been Halloween as well as the Evil Dead. And with that first speculation map, too, I think it's important to point out that in terms of the shows, they had one show listed, and that is Marathon of Mayhem. But after that first speculation map came out, then the official news came out with the details on houses and scare zones and how many shows would happen at Halloween Horror Nights. Not what they were going to be, but how many there was going to be. And there was the confirmation that there was a second show with it. So that was updated in terms of the second version of the map, and I just closed that out. So the first version, even though I wanted to have it brought back up, so I'll get to that when I do. But Ryno, do we want to just go over the changes, or do we want to go through step by step in terms of it?
I mean, it feels like there's a lot of changes.
Yeah.
So I feel like we'll pretty much be just going over it step by step either way. So
yeah, okay. So step by step.
I think just go one by one.
Step by
and if it's
step.
One that's we already said is still rumored from last time, then we'll just move on.
Okay. I was setting you up there for doing a little bit of
you wanted me to do
Jacob's Ladder.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
I would have done the
step by step, the theme song.
Yeah. Everywhere. Nope. Wrong one.
You're thinking of
wow.
Step by step, day by day, a fresh start over.
That is not the theme song, is it?
Yeah. The people we have.
And there's like the Ferris wheel, and they're all at the thing.
They're at the roller coaster going down.
Yeah.
It's the one that's in at Six Flags, and that
Magic
they changed at Magic Mountain, but then they added the CGI lake into it because it was supposed to be on the lake of Wisconsin. I forget which one of the Great Lakes that is. Oh my
God,
but
I never noticed that. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. No, it's terrible. You didn't really notice it back on 4x3 television, but now in like if you watch it on your high def TV, like I forget what streaming service it's on, if it's even on one. It might be HBO Max actually, and you can. It's so bad. It's
That's
so
hilarious.
bad. Like there's waves on a lake. Why are there so many waves on a lake? It's just it's ridiculous. But no, I was going Huey Lewis in the news. Step
gotcha.
by step, rung by rung, higher and higher.
That's the power of love.
No, oh my gosh. You know what? You might be the worst kind of Huey Lewis fan. You only like the two Back to the Future songs, and then you leave off everywhere else, and you believe that they did not steal Ghostbusters from I Want a New Drug. Even
I don't think they did.
They absolutely did. I hate you. Okay, let's go through this list before any more foolishness occurs here. So the big changes, first off, we are replacing one Netflix IP with a different Netflix IP. And I will be honest, the rumors I heard from people I know indicated that Fear Street seemed like a for sure thing. So the fact that it could be removed from the second version of the spec map and be replaced with Stranger Things just completely took me off.
Yeah, that was a curveball for sure.
Yeah. And on top of that, too, I mean, the one thing that does make sense with it is Stranger Things, in terms of their placement, they have it at the Music Plaza stage queue area, which that holds so many people. So it is a spot where that totally makes sense that they could have that. But Stranger Things, I mean, it's I get it's a great relationship that they have with Halloween Horror Nights and Netflix, and the houses have been really big successes, and it's driven a lot of people into the event. But I feel like it's just, I don't know. I feel like it's taking a gamble on what if this new season of the show isn't like super scary and iconic, that it translates well into a house. Something that I feel like they had a problem with some of the later HHN Walking Dead houses. It just felt like, okay, as the show gets more boring, the houses get boring too. And I'm hoping that doesn't happen with Stranger Things. I'm talking about it in a positive way. I'm hoping the best for it, but I feel like it's one of those things. It's better to wait till it comes out and let the audience decide what are the iconic moments and then translate that into a house.
I don't know. I mean, the trailer for me, it seems like this of all the ones we've done, this definitely seems like one. Because if they're in the upside down, a lot of it, they can pretty much just make it literally like an upside down house. Or there is, if you've seen the trailer for Stranger Things, there's a house in it, and I was like, haunted house right there. It's pretty. It feels like they could do a pretty quick and basic house if they wanted to. The reason why I don't think it's Stranger Things that seems crazy to me, like maybe this was a last minute addition, is that Stranger Things is being split into 2 seasons because it's the rendering, like it's not done with the editing and the special effects and all that. The post isn't done on it yet. So 4 episodes are coming out in May and then 4 in July. But like Halloween Horror Nights, to be able to build and complete a house usually needs more time than that, but it's one of those things where I do know that they have put in some great houses together on like last year. I know the big rumor, and I read a whole thing about it, a thread about it online, was that there was a house that was this like was supposed to be the what's her name? What's the artist? The singer? She rebranded. It literally, Phineas is her brother.
Oh, Billie Eilish.
Billie Eilish. They were supposed to be the Billie Eilish house, and then she wasn't going to do it, so they had to build another house. And then she was going to do it, and they built a house. So like they had a house that got basically built and destroyed twice in a year. And then last minute they pulled out because they wanted to rebrand and move away from that like idea that she's a scary person or something like that. And so like they were kind of scrambled. And I'm like, but there was never anywhere at Halloween Horror Nights I felt like that showed. And so that's where I'm like, I don't not have faith in the creative team behind this event that they could come up with something really fast. But a house like this, I feel like would normally take a lot further out planning.
I would. Okay, so yes and no.
It's a big house, I guess, because it's in the big spot, isn't it? Which one did you say it was in?
It's in the first soundstage. I can't remember the exact number with it, but it's in the one where Bride of Frankenstein was last year. Yeah. So what I want to say about it, though, is remember, in the last time around for HHN that they used Stranger Things was 2019, and that was a combination house between the second and third season. And the house ended in the third season that had just aired in July. So with that,
that's true. 4th of July, you're right.
Yeah, they clearly had access to what was going to happen, so they could build it into the house. And for using it for half of the house, I can understand that. So if this is a compilation house of the first 4 seasons, including a little tail end of this new season,
true. That could be that.
I can give it that. But at the same time, too, as the kids get older, it's finally getting easier for them to cast them inside the house. Something that was a problem with the earlier ones. So it's also like maybe they decide to go all in on 4 and feel like they can do enough with it because, they can actually work with a cast that can fit in and be a part of it, because they're not looking for, hey, we need the people who look the absolute youngest and who are the shortest, who can look like they can play a very convincing 10-year-old. And so I'm still not sold on it, but it's early. It's early. We'll figure it all out. But the next one we have to talk about, we're moving on to B, which is the one where you enter in through Race Through New York, starring Jimmy Fallon. In that queue, like last year, it was for Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The first spec map said it was going to be Seaside Village, and I can say it feels like they pretty much locked on to this one, is they know what they want to do with it, because they updated it from Seaside Village to Dead Man's Wharf. And Dead Man's Wharf, of course, was the scare zone in HHN 2016. That was the ship crash and all the sunken stuff that we then even talked about the last speculation map around, that's what they had in the Eddie scare zone last year. They had the one vignette of it, and so the fact that they upgraded from Seaside Village to then saying Dead Man's Wharf, to me, that seems like probably could be a real thing. That seems spot on. I had heard rumors towards another kind of aquatic one dealing with boats that is also from an older house before too, but I don't know. I mean, Dead Man's Wharf feels right. It feels like they could do a good house on it, because didn't they do, when we went to Howl of Scream at SeaWorld, they did one pirate house, and that was like one of our favorites. It was like the
Yeah,
second to last one we did.
Yeah, well, because we liked there was like a Frozen one, there was a pirate one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, there was. You're right. Because there was like an Asylum one, and then there was another one. But you're right. There was a pirate one we really liked.
Yeah. So I would be happy for it.
I'd be fine with it. Yeah.
The problem is Dead Man's Wharf is a scare zone. It was in San Francisco. It's just too small, too compact there. It's hard. It's still hard to make a good scare zone there. Like the last time I remember truly enjoying a scare zone there was when they did the old monsters and the new monsters, and they switched off at the drive-in. Like that one worked. It was a glorified photo op. But since then, it's just, Invasion, not that bad, but it's all cramped in there. So I'd be happy. I'd be happy with a full house of Dead Man's Wharf.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like when they do those like watery ones, it's always kind of, in my experience, have always been kind of cool. Let's spray a mixture with some water or something like that. It's always very like wet.
Okay. We've got to get away from that because I don't like where it's going, Ryno. So we'll move on to the next house. And what was originally in the C spot, that was Fear Street on the first spec map. Now that has replaced with an original house called Bug House. And so this is one of the two that you go right under the track, right beside the Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket. And Bug House. I don't know what to say about this, Ryno. Bug House.
I mean, I don't know if they've had in my years here. I don't think there's been a bug one. So that's where I'm like, it kind of seems like, good idea. The spiders and worms and like, I imagine there's like mutants or something like that because you got to have characters or something. Seems like a good idea. I don't know though. It also at the same time feels like how bugs are so small. What could they? I don't know. We always talk about like the reason why there's never a Gremlins house is the puppets, too many puppets or whatever. And I'm like, how much can they do with like little itty bitty bugs without people getting tangled?
Yeah.
But I'm not a creative person, so I don't know. For Universal, I am a creative individual.
I mean, I'll say bugs do freak me out. A lot of bugs freak me out. So the concept of this house is terrifying. Like anything that's like you walk in to like underground where bugs have taken over and like that terrifies me. Even if that's not what the house is about. And really it's about a guy named Bug that
it's just a guy. Hey,
house.
Come on in. Hey, come on in, buddy.
Come on into Bug's house. I'll serve you punch.
Cold ones in the fridge.
They're human parts.
Yeah.
No. I don't know. This seems like another one where maybe it ends up being real and the concept evolves and they come up with a great backstory. And like you said, they think about interesting creatures for it, but I'm definitely not sold on this one.
I mean, I was rewatching some of a video from last year and I was thinking about that spider lady that was in the Eli Roth. Was it Eli Roth? Yeah. Was the TV show, the Cult TV or whatever it was called.
Oh, yeah.
Crypt TV. Not
Crypt
Cult
TV.
TV.
I forgot about that. I was like, what are you talking about? Last year was Rob Zombie. And it's like, no, it was actually Crypt TV. And I feel bad because Crypt TV, while I hated most of it, it did have the Santa. It had the weird, creepy Santa.
And I have a video of him trying to give Kylie a stocking.
Oh, yeah.
And she was
tried to give her a stocking.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I love my awkward wife. Yeah. Together we live an awkward life because I am just as awkward. But okay, so moving on in that corner too, of course, there's always two entrances right there. He said one of them was supposed to be Fear Street. That got replaced with Bug House. And the other one was The Last of Us, which The Last of Us is now off the list.
I'm fine with that.
The one intellectual property one that it was completely removed. So it went from, technically there was 4 original houses on the first spec map. The other one was the Curse of Pandora's Box. And now the Pandora's Box isn't on the second spec map. It's replaced with a different original one that we'll talk about. But Last of Us is gone. And in that space is the Mummy versus the Wolfman.
It's interesting that, I mean, this is still on the map, which is cool because this is very exciting. I would love a Universal Monsters. I'd love it if this just became a tradition and they just kept changing it.
I do want to say, though, I really made myself overly confused there because technically, if we're talking about IP replacement, The Last of Us would be replaced by another intellectual property house that we're going to talk about in 2 steps from now. Okay. I made that really confusing. I apologize. But anyways, Mummy versus Wolfman. Yeah, we talked about it. Go on. What were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying it's interesting that it's on the map still, but in a different place.
Yeah, I think it's probably a more suited place, even though I think the Universal Monsters concept has proven its worth. I think one of these side houses, where they use the split soundstage back in this area, I feel like it still gives them plenty of enough real estate to do what they need to do with it. That's obviously, it's the split houses. You can do so much in there in those giant sound stages as they did with every event before this that used it 1-2. And, it has the proper amount of line, not too much, not too little. I feel like it's a good area. And, you keep it up at the front of the park. You remember its prominence without, I'm not saying it couldn't do well if you bury it in the back, because the first year they did Universal Monsters, it was back in the Kid Zone one. And it still drove people back there, but I feel like it's a solid spot. And Mummy versus Wolfman, this definitely is set in stone, so I'm very excited for it and I cannot wait for it. But the next one on the list in our E spot, which this is where I kind of confused myself before, the E spot on the first spec map was the Curse of Pandora's Box, and that was all the way over by Fear Factor Live and Men in Black. Now for our E spot, though, we're talking about the Fast and Furious Supercharged section, and here's where they're now saying the El Chupacabra House. That's another strong contender, and just a different location. Maybe seems like a strange one. I don't, but we don't know how Fast and Furious Supercharged is going to be used yet. So it's kind of hard to say. It's not necessarily a good location for it, but I'm happy to still see El Chupacabra on the map.
Yeah. I mean, me too. I feel like it's a solid concept right away. Just being like, oh, I like a folklore house. So,
yep. Absolutely agree. Oh gosh, actually, I confused myself even more. We'll get to it. I need to stop talking before I get too far ahead of myself. Anyways, the next one on the map, letter F. Now this is our house beside Fear Factor Live and Men in Black, and I am so afraid at how accurate this one could be potentially. Before, again, they were saying there it was supposed to be Curse of Pandora's Box, and now in that spot they have the Horrors of Blumhouse, which would be a compilation house of, this time around, The Black Phone and Freaky. And if you're saying, what's The Black Phone? It's because this movie was finished last year and it still doesn't get released until June. So we are still a ways off. Yeah.
So Scott Derrickson, I think, directed it, who directed the first Doctor Strange movie, but who directs horror movies. But the pairing is the curveball for me, because Freaky, if you had said Happy Death Day and Freaky, I would have been like, this house is going to be great, because that's the same kind of concept where it's like, it's a horror movie, but it's really on the edge of that being like so tongue in cheek. It's a comedy. And that's, and that's the thing where I'm like, but the Black Phone looks for me, the trailer looks horrifying, because it's like about a child abduction who then is like, kept in a cell, like in a basement, and he's getting basically this one phone that's disconnected. He's been getting phone calls from the kids or other people that this Ethan Hawke character has murdered, I believe, over the time. And it's like they're trying to tell him how to get out of the house or whatever. And that's where I'm like, isn't that enough to just be a house? Why are you forcing a compilation house? So I never love compilation houses.
I think the past compilation houses for the Horrors of Blumhouse have, when it's especially when you have like The Purge in there, something that's boring, it's nice when you have other properties to throw in there as well too, to kind of freshen that up. What was I can't remember. It wasn't Insidious, but it's Sinister.
Sinister was in there.
Thank you.
Another Ethan Hawke movie.
I was going to say that too. Yeah, Ethan Hawke was in that. I didn't watch the sequel.
Yeah, like,
yeah, it's this one. I again, you are right. Scott Derrickson is the director, and I will say, in the first, it screened at one festival, and I think 4 top critics on Rotten Tomatoes gave it all fresh, and it currently has 100% fresh. But again, only 11 critics have seen it so far that have reviewed it. So it's too early to trust it, but it's definitely, there's something there in it, and having a good director that helps a lot. But the plot says Finney Shaw, a shy but clever 13-year-old boy, is abducted by a sadistic killer and trapped in a soundproof basement where screaming is of little use. When a disconnected phone on the wall begins to ring, Finney discovers that he can hear the voices of the killer's previous victims, and they are dead set on making sure that what happened to them doesn't happen to Finney. So for me, the hard part is obviously in the movie, when we finally see it, there's probably at some point apparitions of the kids that we're going to see, and obviously the killer's going to be in there as well too. So in terms of what you're seeing as you would move through this house, you would absolutely say, oh yeah, like the ghosts of the dead kids from before, and the killer could pop out. So it works on that sense. And
he's got a mask. He's got this creepy mask he wears.
Yeah. And it could just simply be that, and moving through basement after basement, kind of like when they did Happy Death Day. It was like, how many times did you walk through the same room?
Yeah, it's like 3 or 4 times in that same bedroom.
In Exorcist, how many times did you walk through the same room, but just from a different angle? So I feel like that one could work. And with Freaky, I mean, that one is also ripe because they could show it. They could show it in multiple
I haven't
ways.
seen it yet. No spoilers.
Well, I mean, okay. So you know what
I know what it's about. I know it's a
right?
body switch movie.
Yes.
But it's the coming of age body switch movie, but the girl switches bodies with Vince Vaughn, who's a serial killer.
It is the reverse. Sorry, it's not even the reverse. It is the horror version of one of our favorite
Freaky
movies
Friday.
to talk about. No.
Oh.
A Rob Schneider classic.
Oh, Hot Chick.
Yes. That is essentially what it is.
It's me, Vince Vaughn.
Well, it's minus the comedy again. I mean, it's literally that movie. It's an oafish older guy who in this case happened to be a murderer, ends up in a body swap with a young, good-looking girl. And the same exact stuff happens in it. It's like literally the movies are the exact same. It's just in the Hot Chick, he's a petty criminal. And
I guess you're right.
So it's basically the same, but it's, with that being said, there's a lot of different takes on it they could do, because it could start off with, the girl being the girl and Vince Vaughn being a killer. You could do the switch where now she's the killer and Vince Vaughn is scared, and it would allow itself to play out, but not something I necessarily want to see. Blumhouse movies, I still watch them all basically, but only because I feel like I always set it up to be like, well, it might come to Halloween Horror Nights, so I kind of have to watch it. So that way I'm not like struggling to catch up right before the event starts.
I mean, they're
Cannonball.
Yeah, I was like,
Ryno, take it away.
they're still. I still feel like they're. The Invisible Man. That was a good movie. Like, I don't know. They are the leaders in the horror film right now. I feel like them and Jordan Peele with Monkey Paw, but Monkey Paw was only really put out like a couple of films, so it's like. But I don't know. I feel like they've got a quality name. That's why Blumhouse is a quality name.
But even then, before Jordan Peele,
Jordan Peele was with Blumhouse, though, wasn't he? Okay,
the way he was able to start his own production company, with the success of what he did on his first movie. So yeah, you know what, it's all good. It's all good. Okay. But okay, we'll move on. And so this one we don't have to actually worry about, because in the G spot, back beside Men in Black, the potties and the Coke store, at the G
what spot was that?
You heard me, and I'm not going to keep I'm not going to keep repeating it. We've got kids watching. We had Underground Creatures, and in the exact same spot, still Underground Creatures. So no changes there. On the spec map, also back by that spot before, on the first version, it was El Chupacabra, but now sharing the spot with Underground Creatures back there is one that I heard rumored about. that when it didn't pop up on the first spec map, I was really upset because I heard it at least from one person who said, no, it's going to happen. So now I'm like, my fingers are really crossed that this one actually plays out, because now on the map in that back section, we have the Wicked Growth 2, the continuation of the greatest house from last year.
Yeah, I mean, that house was such a hit, and everything about that house was, I feel like, a celebration of the fall, Halloween. It's what we wanted. So I feel like that just seems like kind of a no-brainer, and I really, really hope this one happens. I also am like, at the same time as I'd be just thrilled for them to literally just plop the same house down and not change it at all, I am almost like, maybe I'm hoping they don't do a thing where it is the same house and just a little different. I'm either like, give me the exact same house, or give me like a whole nother new story somehow or something like that. But I really, really, really hope this one stays true, because I loved Wicked Growth. It's probably one of my favorite Halloween Horror Night houses of the events I've ever gone to.
Yeah. Absolutely. I completely agree with you. And there's lots of ways they can take it. You know, the Wicked Growth can kind of take over a different town than the one we saw the first time. You know, it can just be a continuation. Yeah, a different one other than Carver Farms. It can be a continuation on the Pumpkin Lord story. What does he do next? Obviously it could be a continuation on the story of Lil Boo. It could go any sort of way with it. But I think it's important to always try to have that one house that feels like Halloween at HHN.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I think that's when the events like always really stick out in my mind. It's like, oh, that was a great house. And that's something that I would like to see for this one. But speaking of something that evokes Halloween, at the letter I spot, we still have Halloween. And so I'm going to try to say this to be as least confusing as possible. But in that Kid Zone section, the H&I house on the first spec map were Evil Dead and Halloween. Evil Dead is now off the list. That's why I said I got all confused about saying this one replaced this IP and that. I shouldn't have even said anything like that and confused myself more. But Evil Dead off the list for that area. Now in that area for J and I, you have The Weeknd, which it's still it's inevitable, and you still have Halloween there, which I still don't know. But one of the things to notice is that the font has changed on Halloween from the first spec map to the second. On the first spec map, you have the classic font of Halloween from the original movies, and on the spec map for the second one, we now have the 2018 font for it. So yes, that is, for people who are listening, not watching, Ryno is holding up the 2018 Halloween to showcase the font. It's a nice bold font. There's a lot of extra weight to it. It spells out Halloween, but
there's an H, there's an A, there's two L's, an O, a W, two E's, and then an N.
So there's a ween at the end.
A ween. I don't know what the font looks like from the original.
The font for the original is a lot taller. It's not as, the weight of it is not as heavy, and it's a little bit more spaced out. It just looks older, looks creepier. I don't know the best way of saying that, but
this one looks like a solid Times New Roman. I know it's definitely not, but I'm just kidding. But
yeah, I'll say the worst part is I had up until like 2 weeks ago, I had the Halloween box set, the original movies, sitting on my TV stand, because sometimes those are movies I've seen so many times that I'll just put them on in the background and not actually care about paying attention to. So I would have just done the same exact thing for you, Ryno, as you did for us. But the font is definitely different. I will just say that. So the implication now is, yes,
it is a new Halloween. Yeah.
Yes, it's new Halloween related. And that's just a tough one, because I've heard, could be issues using the new Halloween stuff. So makes more sense to use the old one.
But then also the newest movie is Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. So it would be like, are you doing all three together if you're just calling it Halloween at that point? I would have to assume so. Or is it just going to be Halloween in general? Maybe it's like the franchise. I don't know.
Yep.
We'll have to wait and see, I guess.
Yep. But that is it. Those are all the houses. So I just want to recap with it. From the first spec map to this one, we've lost Fear Street, The Last of Us, The Curse of Pandora's Box, and The Evil Dead. And in its place, we now have Stranger Things, Bug House, as well as the Horrors of Blumhouse and the Wicked Growth 2, and then just the slight variations, Seaside Village, now Dead Man's Wharf, and what was the other one? Halloween, changing the font. I can't believe I already forgot about the font after we just went on about font.
We just finished
for so
conference.
font and long.
It's fine.
And the last thing to note too, did I already talk about the shows? I talked about the shows, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Yeah,
You said
okay.
there was they've already confirmed that there are going to be 2 shows.
Yep. So Fear Factor Live on the map. So we did it. Right? I think we did it.
They did it.
We did it. Very fun.
That's the thing. Yeah, I am very interested to see how it shakes out, and looking forward to when I have no doubt that they are going to announce an official house 10 minutes after we're done.
Here. I cannot wait for it. And then we'll just edit that blurb in somewhere, somehow, someday, somebody.
I feel like we're about to start a song.
Okay. Real quick, though. If they announce one of them, which one would you want the announcement to be? Assuming at least 80% is right on the spec map.
Assuming 80% is right, I would put money on then they're going to announce Stranger Things first. I would think, because I think that's the one, like, hey, we're going to plan it. But like, which one do I love Stranger Things, and I would love to see, like, and if they do what you said, it's like the whole series. That would be cool. But I mean, guiltily, you're like, I want Wicked Growth 2 to be announced like right now, but I know that won't come. Those houses are never the first ones to be announced, the originals.
Yeah. I'm gonna say the first house. It has to be The Weeknd. They have to just rip the Band-Aid
yeah,
off of
because
it.
he's gonna basically reveal it before they do at this point.
Yeah, it's so why not just get through it? But we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to see what happens. But Ryno, thanks so much for having this conversation with me.
Oh, I will always talk about Halloween.
Thank you very much. Who'll be Halloween next week? Doing our review finally after all these
bring
years.
your thermoses, everybody.
Halloween's bonus. Okay, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the DIS Unplugged Universal Edition. I hope everyone out there really enjoyed it and you got something useful out of this. And if you did and you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and leave comments, questions, and video suggestions in the comments section. And of course, too, if you're listening to this, please subscribe wherever you listen to the DIS Unplugged Universal Edition. And if it's at a place where you can leave reviews, hey, why not take the time to leave us a rating and a review? And if you want to support us more, you can always book a trip through Dreams Unlimited Travel. Get a free no obligation quote today at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of the DIS Unplugged Universal Edition. Again, thank you so much to everyone out there for taking the time to listen and watch and support us. That's why we're able to keep doing this. So we quite literally could not do it without you. And thank you so much for that. But we will see you again next time for another episode of the DIS Unplugged Universal Edition. But remember, we still haven't changed the name.